Welcome to Operation Freedom, a cable TV show for and about veterans. I'm your host, Bradshaw. We're sponsored by Freedom Museum, VFW Post 7589 Manassas, and Vietnam Veterans of America Chapter 617. Today we are pleased to have Darrell Harvey as our guest. Darrell was born on September the 4th, 1940 in Niagara Falls, New York, which has still probably had a lot of snow now. Early education in the Niagara Falls school system, including New Force High School in Niagara Falls. His two brothers, Paul and Chuck, served respectively in the National Guard and the Marine Corps. Chuck was a Chosun Reservoir, one of the frozen Chosun they call them in Korea. He became a recipient of the Purple Heart. So you had a nice background, your older brothers, and you came in service. When did you come in, and were you a draftee or volunteer?
I was drafted October 31st, which is Halloween Day, and I went to Fort Knox, Kentucky, where I served my basic training.
Uh-huh. And how long was the basic training?
12 weeks.
Everybody has stories about their experience. You kind of bonded with the other guys and everything. Got some interesting stories out of basic training?
Well, in basic training, I remember when we had our vaccination shots. And I had never had one.
Never had a
vaccination shot, and had a reaction to it. I think there were 3 of us that had a reaction, and we went back and told our drill sergeant, Sergeant Ford, and we told him that we'd have to be in the barracks on bed rest and everything. And while the company was going out to the field to familiarize with the weapon, and we did not know that our duty was not going to be bed rest. It was going to be a mop and a bucket and mopping the barracks, which were...
You weren't that sick. You just wanted to keep in and observe.
Which were old barracks from back probably World War I. So when you mopped upstairs, the water, of course, went through the cracks and went down to the bottom level.
And you had to clean up down there.
So we had to clean up down there before they came back.
Yeah.
So
that's quite...
that was our bed rest.
Right. Interesting. And you remember what shot it was that caused that reaction?
It was the chickenpox, yeah. Smallpox.
Smallpox.
Smallpox shot.
You can't go into schools now without certain shots.
That's very true.
Yeah.
So I was surprised when I got a reaction to it.
And Niagara Falls, that's some cold weather, a lot of snow up there, by the way.
Oh, that's a lot of cold.
Yeah.
I think this year, in talking with my brother up until now, I think they've acquired around 130 inches of snow. So I don't know what the level is now, but that was up to about 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
So I chose not to go back to Niagara Falls.
So you were a draftee. How old were you then?
21.
Okay. And what training? You had this basic training, but what did you go in for?
Well, actually, when I got out of basic, I was assigned to Hawk Missile Battalion in Fort Bliss, Texas. And I guess I felt like maybe that wasn't my calling there, so I re-enlisted. And
which you got a change in the MO.
And I changed MOS, and I went to Fort Belvoir to the engineer school.
Ah, okay.
So I spent 3 months at Fort Belvoir training for my MOS, which was, at that time when you first got started, was engineer equipment repairman.
Okay. Explain what MOS, military, what does that stand for, MOS?
Military Occupational Specialty.
Right. Civilians don't have that, but they have occupation, but we have numbers to go with it, right?
Right.
Okay. You're at Fort Belvoir just for 3 months. Now, is that intensive training? They still got training goes on right now today, right?
Yeah, they still have training there, but I think the engineer school, if I'm right, has moved to Fort Leonard Wood.
Okay.
But they had what they called Mech and Tech. I mean, just like basic training again, all the inspections and running across. I can remember running across the railroad tracks to the school every morning, counting cadence, and just like basic training all over again.
Yeah. So you got a double dose. Where'd you go to the operational base, your first operation? Now, Fort Bliss is operational base, but now this is a huge change.
Yeah,
this is 4 years later.
Right,
okay.
When I left Fort Belvoir, I went to Okinawa.
Okay.
And I was in a engineer detachment for my first tour.
Right.
Went over there in 1962, and that was my first tour, and stayed there until 1964.
Okay. And then where to?
Well, in '64, of course, I met my wife over there.
Okay. In Okinawa.
In Okinawa.
Okay, good.
And we got married January 17th, 1964. And went back to the States and got assigned to Fort Devens, Massachusetts.
Massachusetts,
Yeah,
yes.
Massachusetts. And, of course, from there I'd only been married probably 14 or 15 months and got assignment to go to Vietnam. The whole battalion was going to Vietnam. So I didn't really have a whole chance at being married.
Yeah.
Being married in '64. In 1965, I was on a ship going to Vietnam.
Jeez. Big Vietnam. And where were you stationed in Vietnam?
Oh, I started off in, landed at Cam Ranh Bay. I was in a place called Dong Ba Tin, was right over from Cam Ranh Bay. From there, in March, they had R&R that came up already. So, being that my wife was from the Philippines, I went R&R to the Philippines. So I got to meet my brother-in-law and my mother-in-law and everything.
Okay. Oh,
and from there, I went Dong Ba Tin. I went to the Trang and to Quy Nhon.
This all in 13 months?
Yeah.
What was keep moving you around? You had a...
Well, yeah, I kept going from where they needed me.
Okay.
So when I was in Quy Nhon, I was only there about a month or two, and I got assigned up to An Khê, where the first...
That's a hot area up there, right?
Yeah, where the first cav was.
Oh, okay.
So I was in An Khê up until June of '66, and then there was 100 of us that were picked to go on a mission to build an airstrip up in a place called Bong Song, LZ English.
Okay. Well, now you got some photos. It's a good time to come in. This is your outstanding commendation to Hilton or something?
Yeah. This
outside
was
Hilton.
Yeah, this was I think the Bong Song Hilton. This was my home for 6 months. I did have a roommate, but he...
A roommate in that small thing?
Yeah, but he manned the lights on the bridges.
Okay.
In Bong Song. So during the day we were together, and then at night, then I was there by myself.
Ha! Okay. And this is, you're in the hot zone combat.
Yeah.
That is, people hear about those all the time. Tell them what that is.
Yeah, this was my foxhole, which I don't know. I hope I never got to use it, but this is where I went to when, we ever had a mortar attack or anything, that I was right in this foxhole rather than being in the pup tent.
Right. And suppose it had water, you'd go in that thing anyhow.
Yeah, going anyway. I've been in this foxhole when it's been up to my waist.
Gee, okay. And this is the last one is, explain that one. Oh, yes. Tell me what your activity you're doing.
Yeah, this is my picture here. This is my sink, which is my steel pot, which I did which I did my shaving every day. That was my daily routine.
So you carried your own wash basin around?
I carried my own wash basin with me.
And soap?
And soap.
And towel.
And towel.
That's, and the temperature when you were doing that, daylight, the average temperature was?
At least 110.
Yeah.
Maybe even more, maybe even hotter.
Jeez. Okay.
The only place that was really cool was in An Khê.
Okay.
Up in the mountains.
Okay. Now, this young man's got a strikingly good photo there.
Yeah. Yeah, this is myself at the ripe old age of 21. Just graduated from boot camp. which I think I have a big smile on my face here. This was taken in 1961 upon my graduation. So I've changed a little bit over the years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good photo of you. Good. Now this gets a little ahead. We'll save that later.
Okay.
We'll talk about that
That's
assignment later. So you were there 13 months.
13 months.
And did you come out of there and go back? Your wife was, where was she staying while you were there?
My wife was in Niagara Falls, New York.
Okay.
Which, being from the Philippines, she told me on one occasion where they must have had 26 inches of snow, because when she looked out the door, the snow was all the way up, probably 2 feet past the door. She couldn't get out. Of course, she had to call my brother or my father to come over and let her and my daughter out.
It was blowing snow, so it was piling up
there.
It
was piling up in front of the door, and she couldn't even see out or even get out the door.
Jeez.
So she had to call my brother and my father to come over to
clear,
shovel and clear. Yeah, so because she didn't have a driver's license at that time neither.
Right.
So they took care of her when I was in Vietnam.
Good. So what you get the cold? Okay, you're in Vietnam and you come back to the States. Where was your stateside?
I got stationed at Atlanta Army Depot, which was in Forest Park, Georgia.
Okay.
It was a heavy maintenance equipment company. 74th Engineers. We repaired equipment, and all the equipment was sprayed yellow, and it was aid equipment. And once we repaired it and everything, it was sent overseas. I don't remember to what locations.
Right.
But we repaired it there, and then it was shipped out overseas.
How long were you there?
I was there only about a year, and the company deactivated. So from there, I had the good fortune of being sent back to Okinawa.
Second tour.
Second tour, and being that my wife's sister and brother-in-law and 3 nephews were there and niece, we went back to Okinawa in 1968.
And how long was your tour there?
We went back in 68, where I spent, which was a company tour, 37 months. I was in the 30th Artillery Brigade.
Right.
Thinking I left Vietnam in 66. Here I am in Okinawa in 68 in the Artillery Brigade. I'm thinking, surely I'm going to go back to Vietnam again. But I only ended up with the 1 tour.
Yeah, fortunately, I know many people got 2 in the Army and as well the Air Force, 2 and 3 tours, particularly whatever your occupation was.
And I thought that I might have even gone back as TDY, which I never went back again.
Now, you after that you came, what was your next assignment?
I came back and to Fort Eustis. And I was there from like June 1971 to October of 74.
Okay.
Which I had the good fortune of being sent over to Korea, which up until that time I was a staff sergeant, 10 years in the military, and I got the lucky surprise of being in the 2nd Infantry Division. So I'm glad I was in good shape. That's the only time I had been in the infantry in my 22 years in the Army. So I spent 13 months in Korea.
Yeah. Isolated tour, unaccompanied?
Unaccompanied tour.
Right.
I didn't want to bring my family there because I've seen other families there and it was too much of a hardship.
Yeah.
They're more or less on their own and everything. And I just
didn't have all the facilities you normally have.
No, didn't have all the facilities.
Yeah, it's you were an occupying force there. It was we were still, the war was in abeyance, but we never had a peace settlement. So you were occupying force.
Right, and I wasn't that far from the DMZ.
Oh, that could be a very dangerous place.
Yeah, Wasn't that far.
So you run up on DMZ, and you'd be the first people they try to run over.
Yeah.
And your idea is they don't run over you, you stop them.
Right.
Very good. Got to always have that positive attitude. And then you got your fabulous assignment.
Yeah, well, I got injured when I was in Korea.
Uh-huh.
In 71, I got bumped from behind running in formation because we ran 9 or 10 miles every day.
Good.
First the calisthenics in the morning, then we ran 9 or 10 miles. I got bumped from behind. My foot hit a pothole, and of course, being the infantry, no truck took me back to the compound. I walked. So by the time I got back to the compound, my foot was severely swelled inside my boot, which had to cut the boot out. And but I still made formation with crutches and full gear, and every time we had a formation, I was in the formation. And I was a staff sergeant.
Yeah.
But my foot just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. Luckily, I ran into a major that was at the hospital in Yongsan, and he could see what it was. And he went on vacation, and when he came back, my foot was swelling in the cast. And it turned purple. The foot actually went dead.
Jeez.
Probably in another week or two from the male nurse was telling me probably would have lost my foot.
Were you having a lot of pain too?
A lot of pain. It used to be just in the front part of my foot, but as I put the cast down on my heel, there was a sharp pain going through my heel.
Good grief.
And when he took the cast off, it was, in the x-ray showed that everything was fuzzy, and he said, those are all fractures. Your foot was inside the cast.
Fractured from the pressure.
Right, it was called like Sudex atrophy.
Okay.
Was the name of it.
Good grief.
And he came back from the States 30 days later. He looked at my foot. He said, I'm medevacing you out.
Jeez.
So luckily I had my tour was up.
Yeah.
And, I had never been really what you call that injured and having a profile and everything, which being on crutches and what have you. But so it was an 11-day plane ride from Korea back to the...
This time you flew.
Yes. Back to the States.
All the later times everybody flew up. When you took a ship on that was the last of that business.
That was the last of that, right.
Yeah.
And so it was an 11-day flight because it was a medical plane.
Okay. So what's your next assignment?
Well, once I came back from Korea, they wanted to know where I wanted to go back to the States, and being my family was at Fort Eustis. That's where I left them in Newport News. When I came back, I was in Portsmouth Naval Hospital. Then they transferred me to McDonald Army Hospital at Fort Eustis. And that's where my family was. I was at Fort Eustis for a while. And as I was in the motor pool, I got a phone call, and the lady said, are you standing up or sitting down? I said, well, I'm standing up. She said, you might want to sit down. I said, okay. And she said, you are being assigned to the U.S. Army Transportation Agency, White House.
You never even applied for it?
No, I didn't apply for it.
It's amazing.
But at that time, you had to be in the military 10 years.
Right.
Had to be at least a staff sergeant, E6. Couldn't have any thing on your record at all.
No infractions, nothing.
No infractions whatsoever. And you had to be married.
Yeah.
That was the policy then. Had to send a photo of myself, and it took about 12 months to get my clearance.
Okay. Meantime, tell where Fort Eustis is, by the way.
Oh, it's right outside of Newport News.
Okay.
And about 15 miles from Williamsburg.
And it's still in existence today?
Still in existence.
Yeah.
One of my greatest tours when I was in the Army. Fort Eustis.
Fort Eustis.
Oh, yeah, I loved Fort Eustis.
Yeah. What was so unique about it versus other Army ones?
Well, they had a general that came in when I was there that really beautified the post. Okay. And it was always winning awards. I mean, just the post when you went on to was a place you really wanted to be. Good. It was outstanding.
It's still active duty
Still
today.
Active duty.
Good.
Still active duty.
You'd go back in the... You've been down there since you've retired.
Oh yeah, I go down all the time.
Yeah.
We drive through and we go by the old housing areas where we lived.
Still there.
Still there.
That's great. So you're coming into the White House. Did you have any specialized training, or you went there and?
Didn't have any training at all. I just had to write a letter saying I wanted to be part of the unit.
Okay. You got to ask.
Right.
They've assigned you, but you got to ask.
I had to ask. I had to say I had to be part of the unit. I had to send my full length.
Makes you a volunteer.
I had to send my full length picture, so they could look it up and down and see how how you looked and everything.
Right. And you drove vehicles with pastors. I mean, wasn't that your regular duty?
Yeah, I went during the President Ford administration.
Okay.
Of course, then I served with President Carter, and then with President Reagan.
3 presidents.
3 presidents.
I'll be there.
So it was something that everybody asked me, when I was at the White House and everything, they thought, well, I'm just like a big celebrity or something. How'd you feel? They're getting more excited than I am. Well, when you're standing on the White House grounds, and I wore a suit for 8 years.
Oh, yeah, so you put the uniform away.
Right.
Strictly civilian.
Right, for the last 8 years I wore a gray suit, presidential seal, and I had the earpiece, that
Oh, by
I
the way,
had.
here's that little thing you have while you're in it. Let's show that to the...
Yeah, this is the Presidential Service Badge that you're awarded while you're at the White House. You have to be there 1 year in good standing, and then you receive the Presidential Service Badge.
And you served how many years there?
8 years.
8 years. Fantastic.
So I'm really proud of this momentum right here, memento.
In fact, tell us what's on the back of it there.
Yeah, on the back, they're all numbered. This is like 5542 when I went there in 1976. So as far as I know, there's still...
And what president's name is on there?
Well, on this one, I don't have a name.
Oh, okay.
But I do have a belt buckle.
Show that. You covered all the way around.
I have a belt buckle that I received when I retired. It says, it's not like Harry Truman, the buck stops here. It said the buckaroo stops here. And then on the back, it's got, with best wishes, Ronald Reagan, 40th President of the United States.
Great.
So I really cherish this.
Yeah, you don't wear it on your belt. You might lose it, right?
Right, I'm afraid I might lose this and the Presidential Service Badge.
I think it's made of probably brass or copper.
I believe it's brass.
Brass, yeah.
I believe it's brass. And I had the good fortune of meeting President Reagan while I had the tour,
Yeah.
I used to be one of the chauffeurs for Michael Deaver, who was not the chief of staff, but he was assistant
special advisor.
Advisor to the president.
Right.
So
he's up there.
When I drove him up to the ranch the one evening, he introduced me to the president. And one thing I could remember about it is that his grip was so strong. I mean, I was 36 years old at the time, but when he shook my hand, I could tell that he worked out a lot and he chopped wood and everything.
Yeah, that's right. You used to chainsaw and chop wood all the time.
And he had a very strong grip.
Yeah. Neat. Well, it's fascinating. Here's one of the top advisors takes time to introduce you. That was just a real nice touch.
That was really nice, yeah.
Really helped you last in 8 years or whatever.
Oh yeah, and I got to meet the family and everything, and he used to invite me to his house a few times and everything, and I remember one time when I was fortunate enough to have dinner with him, and he had this vegetable sitting in front of me, and I was trying to figure out what it was. Well, it was an artichoke.
Oh, okay.
And I said, I have no idea what this is. He goes, you have to be kidding me. I go, I don't know.
You're from Buffalo.
I'm from Buffalo. We don't have artichokes.
They'll grow.
He showed me how to peel it and everything, and how how you do it. By the time you get down to it, there's nothing left in it.
Right, but it's quite good once you learn what it is. Good. Any reflections on your White House tour? Some thoughts about it?
Well, like I said, I enjoyed the 8 years. It was nice wearing the suit. It was nice traveling, with the presidents and everything. Of course, I could never tell my wife when I was going, when I was leaving, where I was landing, or anything. But
she knew you in good company.
Oh yeah, she knew I was in. She knew I was in good company, and got to meet a lot of celebrities. Well, and I was fortunate enough to drive some celebrities, which I made myself a little autograph book, like about the last 8 months I was there.
You almost filled it up, probably. Neat. How about, we did discuss the Vietnam War. I want to go back to that a moment. You had some reflection on the White House. Any reflection on your duty in the Vietnam War? I always ask a question.
Well, I always knew I had to go over there, and I remember when I found out we were going, and I told the first sergeant, I goes, when am I going to settle my family? And that sort of got him all excited and everything. Well, we'll give you time to serve the family. But I enjoyed my tour. I enjoyed everything about being in my 22 years in the Army. I served my country. I'm proud that I served my country and will serve my country again.
Good. Now, you wrap up after 22 years. You still work full-time and very active with the veterans groups. Your work with, you've been very active. You're with me. You're on the board of directors of the Vietnam Vets of America Chapter 617.
Right.
That's been a lot of work you put. You were doing a lot of work now for something in June, an event in June.
Yeah, I've been working since December. We're hosting the conference in June. And state conference. And I started getting lining hotels up back in June. Now we have a hotel lined up. We have the music lined up. We have the meeting room lined up. And now we're in the process of getting guest speakers.
Good.
So it's.
I thought of something after White House. Excuse me to interrupt about your daughter's graduation. You were working at the White House, and they agreed they had taken care of you. Had to work part of the day, and you're supposed to get replaced and go to your daughter's wedding. You didn't talk about it. I mean her graduation, excuse me.
Yeah, I was supposed to be off that evening, but due to that the aircraft was landing at Andrews, I was out there in one of the cars, and I kept telling the dispatcher that I had to get back to be at my daughter's high school graduation. Being I was away from her in Vietnam and in Korea and everything, and I said, I hope I can get back. Yeah, we'll bring you back. We'll bring you back. Well, it kept getting later and later, and I never got back to her graduation. So that was unfortunate that I missed it.
Yeah. So she's coming up. I've got to wind this up. She's graduating from Strayer, and you're going to make that one. Nobody's going to interrupt it.
And this June coming, my daughter Ginger is going to be graduating from Strayer University. Graduation is going to be at George Mason University, and then there's going to be a little party after that.
Great.
So 20-some years later, I'm getting to go to my daughter's college graduation.
Darrell, I want to thank you for being today. It was very interesting, and we'll have to do this again. I want to thank you for your service to the country, and to my audience, this is Bradshaw. Thank you for being here today, and take care wherever you are.